Course correction detected, the pilot announced, his voice carrying the controlled tension of a veteran operator facing unexpected developments. Navigational systems implementing automated override. Carlos exchanged concerned glances with Bell as the extraction vessel's engines adjusted without manual input, their trajectory shifting away from Galileo Station toward a different vector entirely. Around them, the Argonauts responded with disciplined efficiency. Weapons checked, defensive positions assumed, communication attempts initiated. Override source? Graves demanded, moving to the navigation console with focused intensity. The pilot's hands worked mechanical controls with practiced precision, attempting to reassert command authority over systems designed specifically to resist electronic interference. External signal, military-grade encryption, authentication protocols registering as command-level override. Vigilant actual, Argonaut actual, Graves transmitted through their secure communication device. Experiencing navigational override. Request clarification on destination parameters. The response came after a brief delay, Captain Hoover's voice carrying unmistakable authority despite the transmission distance. Argonaut actual, Vigilant confirms, course correction implemented under Protocol Obsidian, authentication code Erebos 9387. Bell leaned closer to Carlos, her voice barely audible. Protocol Obsidian. That's high-level containment procedure. For what? Carlos asked, though he already suspected the answer. Potential consciousness compromise, she replied grimly, reserved for situations where propository influence cannot be ruled out through standard assessment methods. Wilson had been monitoring their adjusted trajectory, his tactical experience allowing rapid calculation of their new destination. Course profile indicates Sierra Base, he reported. IOC Black Site. Specialized containment facilities. The implications settled over the extraction vessel like a physical weight. Sierra Base wasn't just another military installation. It was a classified facility specifically designed for handling anomalous threats beyond conventional security parameters, the type of place people entered but didn't necessarily leave. Vigilant actual. Request clarification on Protocol Obsidian implementation, Graves transmitted, his voice maintaining professional composure despite clear concern. Team status reports indicated no compromise indicators during mission execution. Stand by for direct communication from command, came Hoover's reply after another brief delay. Secure channel activation on approach to Sierra Base perimeter, transport ETA approximately 27 minutes. The communication ended with finality that discouraged further inquiry. Graves turned to his team, his expression revealing nothing of whatever calculations were processing behind his impassive features. Prepare for specialized debriefing protocols, he ordered with the calm authority of a commander who had faced countless unexpected developments throughout his military career. Equipment secured according to containment parameters. Documentation prepared for complete operational assessment. The Argonauts acknowledged without question. Men who had operated in environments where mission parameters changed without warning, where adaptation represented the difference between success and failure. Their disciplined response provided stark contrast to the growing unease Carlos felt as their vessel continued its enforced journey toward a classified containment facility. This doesn't make sense, he said quietly to Bell. We completed the mission successfully, deployed the monitoring package, retrieved valuable intelligence about the dimensional tether vulnerability. Why route us to a containment facility instead of standard debriefing? Bell's expression remained professionally composed, but her eyes betrayed concern beneath. Something happened while we were on the surface. Something significant enough to trigger highest-level containment protocols. Echo Team's compromise, Carlos suggested. If the repository could process them and repurpose their vessel that effectively, then other teams might have been similarly compromised, Bell completed the thought, which means any returning personnel represent potential security risk until verified clean. The scenario made tactical sense, however disturbing the implications. If multiple insertion teams had been processed, their consciousness patterns extracted, and their physical forms repurposed under repository control, then standard security protocols would be insufficient. The consciousness harvester would have gained intimate knowledge of military procedures, authentication codes, even psychological profiles that might allow it to create convincing simulations of human behavior. Sierra Base perimeter approach in 15 minutes, the pilot announced. Automated docking procedures initiating. Graves moved through the vessel's interior, checking each team member personally while providing focused instructions. Not general preparation, but specific containment readiness. The kinds of protocols developed for scenarios where personnel might have been exposed to consciousness-affecting influences. Fisher, he addressed Carlos directly, your bridge experience provides unique perspective. Any indicators of potential lingering repository influence following dimensional tether disruption? Carlos considered the question carefully, reaching back through his memories of the mission. Nothing direct. The neural protection injections maintained effectiveness throughout our surface operations, no unexplained processing gaps or consciousness fluctuations that might indicate external manipulation attempts. Graves nodded, not dismissing the assessment but clearly reserving judgment. Bell, medical evaluation? Clean readings throughout the mission, she confirmed. Neural protection maintained integrity despite extended exposure to transformed environment. No infiltration signatures detected in any team member. Maintain vigilance, was all Graves said before moving to the next team member. Sierra Base appeared through the viewport as they approached, a massive installation constructed into the side of an asteroid, its external features deliberately minimized to reduce detection profile. Unlike Galileo Station's relative accessibility, this facility had clearly been designed with isolation as primary function. Minimal approach vectors, comprehensive defensive capabilities, specialized containment architecture. Sierra Base Control, Argonaut extraction vessel requesting approach clarification, the pilot transmitted as they entered the facility's immediate security perimeter. Protocol Obsidian implemented during transit. Awaiting instructions. The response came not through standard channels but directly through their communication system. A voice Carlos recognized immediately despite distortion caused by security encryption. Argonaut extraction vessel, this is Director Dell. Authentication code Terminus Omega Black. Maintain current approach vector, automated docking will proceed without deviation. Upon arrival, all personnel will remain aboard until specialized containment team provides explicit extraction instructions. The unprecedented personal communication from Dell himself eliminated any remaining doubt about the severity of whatever situation had developed during their absence. The director wouldn't involve himself directly in extraction protocols unless circumstances had escalated beyond standard operational parameters. Acknowledged, Director, the pilot responded with profession, maintaining approach vector, awaiting specialized extraction instructions upon docking. The extraction vessel continued its guided approach to Sierra Base, automated systems assuming complete control as they entered the final security perimeter. Through the viewport, Carlos could see extraordinary defense infrastructure, not just standard military assets but specialized containment technologies clearly designed for threats beyond conventional classification. Something catastrophic happened, he said quietly to Bell. This level of security response suggests system-wide crisis, not just standard containment procedure. Bell nodded slight agreement, her attention focused on the approaching docking bay. Whatever occurred must have happened while we were on the surface. Sierra Base doesn't activate Protocol Obsidian without director-level authorization. The vessel entered a massive hangar bay that immediately began decontamination procedures. Specialized energy fields and isolation protocols engaging automatically as atmospheric seals engaged around their craft. Through the viewport, Carlos could see dozens of security personnel in specialized containment gear, positioning themselves in tactical formation around the docking area. Not standard security, not even elite military units. These were specialized containment operators with equipment designed specifically for consciousness-affecting threat response. Docking complete, the pilot announced as mechanical systems engaged, securing their vessel to the facility's infrastructure. Atmospheric integration protocols holding at Stage 1, pending specialized containment team authorization. Graves performed a final check of his team, confirming readiness for whatever extraction protocols awaited them. The Argonauts maintained their disciplined composure despite the extraordinary circumstances. Veterans of enough classified operations to recognize when standard procedures had been suspended in favor of specialized response. Through the sealed viewport, Carlos watched as a figure in distinguished uniform approached the containment team's perimeter. Even at this distance, Howard's distinctive profile was unmistakable. Cybernetic enhancements gleaming under the hangar's harsh lighting, posture reflecting military authority cultivated through decades of command experience. Beside Howard walked another familiar figure, Director Dell, his civilian attire standing in stark contrast to the uniformed personnel surrounding him. Their presence together, personally overseeing extraction protocols, confirmed the severity of whatever situation had developed. "Attention all personnel," came Howard's voice through their communication system. "Specialized extraction will commence in 60 seconds. You will be removed from the vessel individually, secured according to containment protocol, and processed through comprehensive assessment procedures. No deviation from instructions will be permitted under any circumstances." The formal language carried weight beyond standard military communication. This wasn't routine security, but highest-level containment response. Whatever had occurred while they were on Repository 11's surface had triggered protocols reserved for civilization-threatening contingencies. "Hatches will remain sealed until specialized team provides direct access authorization," Howard continued. "Once extraction begins, you will comply with all instructions immediately and without question. The facility is operating under Emergency Directive 7. All standard rights and protocols are suspended pending containment verification. The unprecedented implementation of Emergency Directive 7, a classification that essentially granted military authority unlimited operational discretion without oversight or appeal, sent unmistakable message about the severity of current circumstances. Something had gone catastrophically wrong, something directly related to repository operations. "Extraction commencing," Howard announced after precisely 60 seconds. "Remain in position until individually summoned." The vessel's hatch mechanisms engaged without internal activation, security overrides implemented from the facility's control systems. As the sealed doorway opened, specialized containment teams immediately established position, weapons trained on the interior, detection equipment scanning for anomalous signatures, containment fields ready for immediate deployment. "Sergeant Andrew Graves," called a containment officer reading from a specialized tablet. "Forward movement authorized. Maintain direct path to designated containment position." Graves acknowledged with professional composure, rising from his command position and moving toward the extraction point with disciplined precision. The moment he crossed the vessel's threshold, containment teams surrounded him. Specialized restraints supplied with practiced efficiency. Neural suppression devices positioned at key junctions along his central nervous system. Comprehensive scanning equipment cataloging his biological signatures. One by one, the Argonauts were summoned and similarly processed. Each extracted individually, restrained according to specialized containment protocols, subjected to preliminary consciousness verification procedures before being escorted from the immediate docking area. "Carlos Fisher," the containment officer eventually called. "Forward movement authorized. Maintain direct path to designated containment position." Carlos rose carefully, keenly aware of multiple weapons tracking his movement as he approached the extraction point. Belle caught his eye briefly as he passed her position, professional composure masking concern beneath, silent communication conveying whatever might come next, they would face it together. The moment he stepped beyond the vessel's threshold, containment teams surrounded him with practiced efficiency. Specialized restraints secured his limbs, while neural suppression devices were positioned along his spine and at his temples. Not standard security protocols, but technologies specifically designed to prevent consciousness-affecting influences from spreading between potential carriers. "Neural scan initiated," announced a technician operating equipment unlike anything Carlos had previously encountered. "Baseline parameters established. Preliminary assessment inconclusive. Requires comprehensive evaluation." Howard approached once the initial containment was established, his cybernetic enhancement scanning Carlos with focused intensity. Not casual inspection, but detailed assessment using technologies designed specifically for detecting repository influence patterns. Fisher, Howard acknowledged, his voice carrying none of the professional respect their previous interactions had established. Preliminary containment established. You will proceed to specialized assessment facilities for comprehensive evaluation. Major, Carlos responded, maintaining composure despite the disorienting circumstances. Our mission was successful. We deployed the monitoring package at the Dimensional Anchor construction site. Discovered critical vulnerability in repository operations. What's happened that requires this level of containment response? Howard's expression remained professionally neutral, but his enhancements flickered with increased activity. Processing information, calculating responses, assessing potential threat variables. Every other insertion team was compromised, he stated with clinical precision. Every other team was either killed or processed. Repository 11 implemented systematic countermeasures against all surface operations simultaneously. You are the only team that has returned. The revelation struck Carlos with physical force. Multiple teams sent to various objectives, all compromised or destroyed except theirs. The repository hadn't just defended against their specific intrusion, but had implemented comprehensive response against all human surface operations. That's why Echo Team's vessel attacked us, Carlos realized aloud. The repository processed them and used their extracted consciousness patterns to pilot their vessel, but our team completed the mission successfully. We're not compromised. That determination requires comprehensive assessment, Howard replied, unmoved by Carlos's assertion. The repository has demonstrated increasingly sophisticated infiltration capabilities. Standard verification procedures are insufficient against potential consciousness manipulation at the depths you experienced. Medical confirmation supports his claim, Bell interjected as she was extracted from the vessel, similarly restrained and scanned by containment teams. Neural protection maintained integrity throughout surface operations. No infiltration signatures detected in any team member. Howard turned his attention to her, cybernetic enhancements scanning her biological signatures with the same focused intensity. Nurse Bell, your expertise is acknowledged, but specialized assessment is required, given the unprecedented nature of current circumstances. The repository has demonstrated capabilities beyond our previous understanding of consciousness manipulation. As the final team members were extracted and secured, Director Dell approached the containment perimeter. His expression revealed none of the diplomatic calculation that usually characterized his interactions, only focused determination appropriate to crisis management of unprecedented scale. All personnel accounted for, reported the containment team leader. Preliminary scans complete, proceeding to specialized assessment facility as directed. Dell nodded acknowledgement, his attention focused primarily on Carlos. Mr. Fisher, he addressed him directly, your cooperation is appreciated despite these extraordinary circumstances. I understand the containment protocols appear extreme, but they're necessary given developments since your team's deployment. What exactly happened, Director? Carlos asked, trying to understand the severity of their situation. How many teams were compromised? 61 insertion teams deployed to various objectives throughout Repository 11. Transformed surface, Dell replied after brief consideration. 60 teams confirmed compromised or dead through direct observation of processing or hostile action upon extraction attempt. Yours is the only team to return without confirmed compromise indicators. The scale of the operation and its catastrophic failures stunned Carlos. Not just Echo Team, but 5 other specialized units, all lost to the consciousness harvester in a single coordinated operation, a devastating blow to humanity's intelligence-gathering capabilities against an adversary that had been executing its plans for 77 million years. We need to report what we discovered, Carlos urged, as containment teams began moving the secured Argonauts toward an interior facility access point. The dimensional tether represents critical vulnerability in repository operations. When we disrupted it, the consciousness harvester experienced comprehensive system degradation throughout the surrounding sector. All operational intelligence will be thoroughly documented during specialized assessment, Dell assured him, though his expression suggested primary containment rather than intelligence processing. For now, security protocols take absolute priority. The secured team members were guided through specialized containment corridors, pathways designed with multiple redundant isolation systems, ensuring that potentially compromised personnel couldn't contaminate broader facility operations. Each intersection featured comprehensive scanning equipment. Each transition point implemented additional restraint verification. As they proceeded deeper into Sierra Base, Carlos began to fully grasp the facility's true nature. This wasn't merely a classified research installation or secured military base. It was a specialized containment facility designed specifically for threats beyond conventional classification. The architecture, the security systems, the operational protocols, all engineered for managing entities with consciousness-affecting capabilities. They eventually reached what appeared to be a detention area, though prison seemed inadequate description for a facility featuring technologies clearly designed to contain influences beyond physical restraint. Individual chambers lined a central corridor, each incorporating specialized field generators and neurosuppression systems unlike anything Carlos had encountered previously. Containment processing will proceed individually, announced the security team leader, consulting specialized equipment displaying assessment protocols. Each subject will undergo comprehensive consciousness verification before proceeding to intelligence debriefing. The Argonauts were directed to separate containment chambers, specialized restraints maintained throughout the transfer process. As Carlos was guided toward his designated cell, he noticed hundreds of personnel throughout the facility, not just security teams but specialized researchers, medical staff, and what appeared to be consciousness architecture analysts. The scale of the operation suggested preparation for threat response beyond individual containment. "Major," he called to Howard as security prepared to initiate his cell's isolation protocols. "No more ground teams should be sent to Repository 11. It's too dangerous now." If every other team was indeed compromised, the consciousness harvester has adapted to our insertion methods completely. Howard paused, cybernetic enhancements processing this assessment with visible calculation. "Your concern is noted, Fisher. Rest assured, strategic reassessment is already underway, given current circumstances." "He's right," Graves interjected from his position several cells away, his voice carrying the authoritative weight of battlefield experience. "Repository demonstrated comprehensive countermeasure capabilities against our best infiltration methods. Sending additional ground teams would result in certain compromise." The veteran Marine's professional assessment clearly registered with Howard, whose military experience recognized the value of direct operational intelligence from specialized units. For a brief moment, the Major's expression shifted from containment administrator to tactical commander evaluating critical field reports. "Your assessment is acknowledged, Sergeant," Howard confirmed with subtle respect that hadn't been present in his initial extraction communications. "Strategic operations have been temporarily suspended pending comprehensive threat reassessment." As security prepared to activate his cell's containment fields, Graves called out with unexpected humor that cut through the facility's tense atmosphere. "I need to get paid more for this. Dimensional tether disruption wasn't in the mission parameters." Several Argonauts chuckled despite their restrained circumstances, the gallows humor of veteran operators who had faced extraordinary dangers throughout their military careers. Even some security personnel fought back, smiles, professional composure briefly yielding to recognition of the absurd circumstances they all faced. "Containment protocols initiating," announced the security team leader, apparently immune to the moment of levity. "All personnel maintain position during field activation." The specialized containment fields engaged with subtle hum, transforming each cell into completely isolated environment. Not just physically separated, but specifically shielded against consciousness-affecting influences that might transfer between potential carriers. The technology represented the culmination of everything humanity had learned about repository operations and how to counter potential infiltration. As his cell's field stabilized around him, Carlos found Belle watching him from her corresponding chamber across the corridor. Despite the extraordinary circumstances, despite the restraints and containment fields and overwhelming security presence, her expression conveyed unfailing support. Whatever came next, they would face it together, even separated by specialized isolation technology. Director Dell approached Carlos's cell once containment was fully established, studying him through the transparent barrier with calculating assessment that revealed nothing of his internal conclusion. "I want to believe your team successfully completed its mission without compromise," Dell said finally, his voice carrying through specialized communication systems designed to prevent direct consciousness influence while allowing verbal exchange. "The intelligence you've described regarding dimensional tether vulnerability would represent significant strategic advantage if verified." "It's real," Carlos insisted. "When we disrupted the tether, the repository experienced comprehensive system degradation throughout the surrounding sector. Its monitoring systems failed, its defensive measures deactivated. Its operational coherence collapsed until it established alternative energy pathways." Dell considered this with the careful analysis of someone who had witnessed Repository 10's catastrophic activation firsthand. "If accurate, this represents the first identified critical vulnerability in consciousness harvester operations. But verification requires absolute certainty regarding your team's consciousness integrity." "How long will assessment take?" Carlos asked, recognizing the necessity despite his frustration. "Comprehensive consciousness verification requires approximately 72 hours per subject," Dell replied with clinical precision. "Neural pattern analysis, memory consistency verification, consciousness architecture assessment, no shortcuts exist when confirming absence of repository influence. 3 days in specialized containment while researchers verified their consciousness integrity. A necessary precaution given the catastrophic compromise or loss of 60 other insertion teams, but frustrating delay in implementing what they had learned about dimensional tether vulnerability. The repository continues expanding its dimensional anchor network while we're contained here," Carlos pointed out. "Every day of delay represents strategic advantage for consciousness harvester operations. And every compromised asset that infiltrates our defense infrastructure represents potentially catastrophic vulnerability," Dell countered with the cold calculation of crisis management experience. 60 teams were lost or processed, Fisher. 60 teams with specialized training, classified operational knowledge, and intimate understanding of our defense capabilities. The repository now possesses everything they knew. The implications settled heavily even through specialized containment fields. Not just the loss of trained personnel, but comprehensive intelligence breach affecting humanity's entire defense strategy against consciousness harvester operations. The repository hadn't just eliminated threats to its surface operations. It had harvested critical knowledge about everything humanity was planning against it. "Begin with our team's intelligence about the dimensional tether," Carlos suggested. "While verification proceeds, analysts can assess the strategic implications of what we discovered. Develop operational response options for implementation once containment clearance is granted." Dell nodded slight approval of this approach. "Already initiated. Your preliminary report has been forwarded to specialized assessment teams for analysis while consciousness verification proceeds. If confirmed, dimensional tether vulnerability will inform next phase strategic operations against Repository 11. As Dell departed to oversee broader containment operations, Carlos settled into his isolated cell, specialized restraints gradually adjusting to allow minimal comfort while maintaining necessary security parameters. Across the corridor, Belle offered a reassuring nod despite their extraordinary circumstances. The Argonauts similarly adapted to containment with the disciplined composure of men who had operated in environments beyond conventional parameters throughout their military careers. 72 hours of specialized assessment would determine whether they had truly escaped Repository 11 without consciousness compromise. 72 hours while analysts evaluated the strategic significance of dimensional tether vulnerability. 72 hours as humanity processed the catastrophic compromise of 60 specialized insertion teams and everything they had known about defense operations. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave it a like and to subscribe if you'd like to see more. Feel free to comment and share it as well. With all that said, go on and check out the video in the top left. I think you might like it.